webinar in this 3-week webinar series. So the whole purpose of Lesson 3, the MaxxTraxx Workflow Overview, is to give you guys a sense of, number one, how did they intend us to use the software? You know, and a lot of it's pretty intuitive, but for me, I wasn't sure of the recommended workflow, number one. Number two, I also want you to get a feel of how the work that you do on a daily basis flows into the accounting, because everybody, I believe, on this call here, if they're not at this moment, will be full accounting users down the road. So that's what we're covering today. Now, I know a couple of you guys have been through this webinar series before, so thank you for coming again. Sometimes what happens is you don't have a frame of reference until you use the program for a little while. So definitely welcome you back, and I'm glad you're going through again. I think this will be helpful. Okay, guys, so I'm just going to start with, again, real high-level stuff. So you guys all can see my screen, clicking around on my screen? Okay, guys, and sorry, Buck, I don't know why this isn't letting you jump in, but I am recording this. In MaxxTraxx, 3 things need to be put into the system in their entirety in order for the full accounting to work, okay? Number 1, repair orders, which a lot of you guys have been, some of you guys have been doing for years, and you're taking payments. You're writing repair orders and taking payments all day long, and you guys are pretty familiar with that workflow. Sherry, I want to show you real quick in a work order, the biggest difference between MotorTraxx and MaxxTraxx is that we have a reason for service. So this is the dealership style of writing service, whereas MotorTraxx and most automotive shop software just has labor and parts. We actually put all of the work under a reason for service. And we're going to talk about this format extensively on Friday and Monday in Lesson 4 and Lesson 5, which is writing our rows, and then more about writing our rows. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I wanted to show you one of the key differences in this system, okay? So again, guys, writing up these ROs and taking the payments, however they pay, is about 50% of the data entry that you do in MaxxTraxx if you're a full accounting user. The other 2 items that need to go into the system in their entirety for reliable financials is every single part and sublet labor that you purchase needs to be received in the system before you sell it. So we have all these different features, guys, that we can turn on that give you warnings about this. Let's look at one of these. Jump in this one for fun. Okay, you guys see the red circle and slash. What that red circle and slash means is one of 2 very important things. I'm going to double click on this parts line. It means either I don't have a quantity on hand, see, it says stock on hand -1, or what we would call a low stock or short sale. It's a short sale. It could mean this, or guys, it could mean it doesn't have a cost. Okay, so this is the most important principle for our full accounting users that I'm hoping for you guys to grasp throughout today's webinar and understand the workflow in order to get rid of those red circles and slashes and have accurate financials. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that flow in a minute. So we need to receive that oil filter into the system before we sell it. Okay? And that accounts for about 30 to 35% of our data entry. It is a big deal. You know, because you guys, let's see, the last shop I was at, I don't know, we were doing, let's see, 1.4, I think, 1.4 million at that shop. We have probably taken in 25 vendor invoices a day, you know, buying parts all day long. WorldPack, my #1 vendor, we had 5 deliveries a day. So I probably got something on every single delivery from WorldPack. So guys, those have to be received into the system before you sell them to get rid of those red circles and slashes. The same goes for sublet labor. We actually treat in MaxxTraxx sublet labor as an inventoried item. Now, the reason why we track sublets as an inventoried item is just to make sure you guys are properly accounting for how much did that sublet labor cost you, number one, and is it getting billed out to the customer. That is probably one of the two biggest leaks in a shop. Number one is not getting your returns back and getting credits back from your returns or your used cores, number one. And number two is forgetting to bill out stuff, which includes sublet labor. So we treat sublet labor as an inventoried item, so we can say, hey, this sublet labor, let's say a tow bill. I was famous for not billing out my tow bills all the time. This tow bill is tied to, you know, what's our RO number, 10,142. So it helps us to tie every purchase to a particular job. Okay, so we make sure we're getting that billed out. So we're going to talk about that workflow here in just a minute. Now that's, like I said, 30 to 35% of the data entry. Now the last piece of the puzzle, now checkbook is both deposits and checks, transactions, debit card, stuff that you're, you know, automatic payments, your EFTs. I had a lot of those. So that is the last piece of the puzzle. That is about 10 to 15% of your data entry. So that there, guys, we need to get all those three things into the system to have reliable financials. Okay? So a little side note also for you, Sherry. In MaxxTraxx or in a lot of other software programs, they batch out, like we did our daily book in MaxxTraxx. We don't actually have a daily book in MaxxTraxx because everything in MaxxTraxx posts to the general ledger in real time. Okay? Posts to the general ledger in real time. So every time we make a purchase, it goes immediately to the general ledger under inventory and accounts payable if I'm on, you know, on account with that vendor. Because now I have a new asset in my hand, inventory, a new part, and then conversely, I have a bill that I got to pay somebody at the end of the month. So all of that stuff is hitting multiple parts of the program, including the general ledger in real time. So you guys always know to the minute where you are financially, which, you know, most software programs don't have an integrated accounting system. So that's probably the number one value. Okay, so let me stop just for a minute. And Isabel, I had you muted just for a sec, just with a little background. Oh, you got the mute now. Guys, do you have any questions on that so far, those three things? Okay, I'm going to move on. Okay, so with that under our belt, let's talk about golden rule. The golden rule in MaxxTraxx is that we duplicate in MaxxTraxx what's happening in real life. Okay, so if in order for the full accounting to be, you know, to be effective and be reliable, we need to maintain that. So it's real simple. Customer comes in, drops off their car, you guys have to start an RO. Okay, and then if you're going to sell that customer some parts, you actually have to receive them in real life, right, before you can put them on the car and sell them. So in MaxxTraxx, we have to receive those parts in real life before we can sell them. And that's, again, going back to that very, very important red circle and slash. Okay? And then we want to, as best we can, when we write a check, we want to put the check in the system. Now, we have a fair amount of users that still do handwrite checks. That's cool. We can totally work with that. You just need to enter those into the system. And the more timely you can stay on top of entering those checks into the system, well, first of all, the more you're going to stay on top of your work, but that's how we have reliable financials in real time, all the time. Okay, so that's some pretty important parts. So going back to number one, writing ROs and taking payments. When you guys go into an RO, and let's just put this something in here, and you take a payment, and you pay this bill, let's say it's paid with Visa, that hits the general ledger in real time as undeposited funds. Okay? That's step number 1, writing our rows, taking payments. So those payments aren't actually posting anywhere yet, like to the bank. They're actually just being received into the general ledger in undeposited funds. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2, of course, you know, we're talking about we need to receive all these parts that we buy into the system. That's number 2. So going back to number 3, part of that is doing the checkbook. And the other part of it is at the end of every day. Now, you don't have to do this at the end of every day before you go home, which a lot of systems force you to do. I know MaxxTraxx did, and Sherry, I'm sure you can speak to this. I would not leave until I did my daily book. I think we talked last week, and you do it every day at 2 o'clock. So that was pretty important. We need to make sure that our end of day is done. Now, this is truly, and we do spend an entire webinar going over this daily sales report. This truly is a glorified pen and paper. It doesn't post anywhere. But what this daily sales report does is it looks at the activity for a certain date range. Let me put in some put something in here in my demo just so you have something to look at. Okay, it tracks your work for the day, how many rows you did, and it also tracks all of your payments. Okay, so this is part of step number 3. Part of step number 3, which is your checkbook. So part of this, guys, is managing your cash, because cash in the cash drawer, which is recorded in the money bag in the cash drawer button, does hit the general ledger in real time. Okay, so if you guys pay cash for parts, or if you use cash like 20 bucks to pay for a car wash, or put 20 bucks of fuel in somebody's customer's car so you can go test drive it. Again, that's part of that third piece of the puzzle. Okay, that's maintaining the checkbook and your cash on hand. So again, in lesson number 7, we spend an entire day, that's next Friday of next week on Friday, we spend an entire day going over that. We're going to talk about that procedure. But that's the other piece of the puzzle. And typically, the person who is taking in the payments throughout the day, typically a service writer or service manager, is the person who actually does this cash drawer reconciliation. Okay? So it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't go anywhere on your general ledger when you do this report, unless, of course, you're touching the money bag. You guys notice the money bag is actually up here also on the toolbar? I mean, theoretically, we want to duplicate in MaxxTraxx what's happening in real life. So if somebody takes 20 bucks out of your cash drawer and goes and gets a car wash, you want to put that in immediately. Honestly, guys, we don't usually find that towards the end of the day when I go to count my cash drawer and all of a sudden 20 bucks is missing. Okay, so we'll talk about that in lesson 7. Okay, but that's the other piece of the puzzle. Okay? So any questions, guys? This is real important. Is this, first of all, is this making sense? Get a little feedback here. This workflow. Sherry, this is important for you because you're kind of jumping into this new. Some of the other folks have been through the webinar series before. How's this making sense for you?
So far, okay.
Okay, okay. It's a little bit different. When we think about MaxxTraxx, our old DOS program, everything got batched and bundled. Guys, there are only 2 things in MaxxTraxx that are kind of the non-negotiables that I can't fix it once I once I do it. Number 1, if you guys void a repair order off the service counter, or a parts invoice off the parts counter, and that for that matter, if you void a repair order, you have to start over from scratch. Okay, that we can't ever fix. We can't ever go back. The other thing, guys, is restock parts, and we're going to talk about that next. The restock parts is, again, you receive into MaxxTraxx every single part in sublet labor. You guys will also see this is where we enter our shop supplies as well. If we post that to the wrong vendor, which happens, to the, for the wrong amount. Maybe I put the wrong part number on there. I wasn't looking close enough at my vendor invoice. Those we cannot void or edit or change in any way, shape, or form. Can't change the date, Can't change the due date. And the reason for that, guys, is you're going to see here in a minute, it's got fingers into everything. It's got fingers into inventory, into the part record, into the parts purchase history, into pay bills. It's got, I mean, it's just, and it hits the general ledger and every RO that those parts were assigned to. So if you guys ever make a mistake on the restock parts, the way that we do it is we write a credit to reverse exactly what we did, and then we do it correctly. Other than that, everything else in MaxxTraxx can be edited and corrected. You know, if I made a mistake and posted something off as an American Express, but it was really a check or a Visa, I can go to my cash drawer and view current cash drawer transactions for that particular day, just pretend, and I can void it. You can see I've done a few examples. And we're voiding payments. That's what this does. This section in here doesn't void the RO, guys. It just voids the payment. So if I did a boo-boo like this one, I made a mistake, and it was eventually, you know, originally an AR charge. I must have changed something on it and reposted it again. So you guys see that example. So there's a lot we can do. There's a lot we can do in order to, you know, fix anything that gets put into the system incorrectly. And everything leaves a trail. Everything leaves a paper trail. Okay? Nothing can be done in the system that affects the money, the cash flow transaction, that doesn't leave either a void here. We even have a voided items report, modified cash flow items report. So lots of visibility into that. So you have a lot of accountability, guys. Okay? So I want to go back to what I consider to be one of the hardest parts of MaxxTraxx. Having been through this whole process myself and having converted, you know, from another system. I use their old DOS system since 1992, so I got real, you know, in a groove of doing it a certain way. So changing over for me, because I don't like change, is was challenging. Okay, so the hardest thing for me of those three items is receiving parts. What we call here, guys, restock parts. Let me click on this link or on this icon real quick. Restock parts is really receiving a vendor invoice. And if we actually had more room to put 3 words, it would probably say received vendor invoices. But we really don't have room, so we go back to our old historical. This restock parts is the label that we had in our old DOS version, restock parts. And it worked back in the day because we used to actually stock a lot of parts. We don't stock anything anymore. We don't need to. Well, again, I get Worldpack deliveries 5 times a day. So we have to receive stuff into the system. Now, guys, there are 4 ways to receive parts purchases in the MaxxTraxx. And it all depends on, do you have a part number or not? Do you have online ordering or not? And there's so many different variables. So we go over this in lesson 5. We talk about writing ROs and using online ordering. We also talk about this in lesson 6, managing parts, which is a week from today. So guys, today, again, this is just that workflow overview. We're just talking today about all the different steps that you're going to be taking in MaxxTraxx on a daily basis, number 1. And we're going to be talking as we go through this 3-week webinar series about how to do those 3 steps. But again, I wanted you to lay the foundation so you guys could understand why. Why are we doing this? How does this all flow to our accounting? Okay? If you guys weren't using the integrated accounting, you could have as many red circles and slashes as you wanted. Okay? But the fact that we are using the integrated accounting, we are much more critical about making sure that we get rid of those red circles and slashes. Okay? So this is why, I want to go back a little bit, why we get rid of these red circles and slashes. Number 1, notice here, this oil filter is on here. It's negative, which means I don't have it in stock, but I've obviously sold this oil filter before, such a common number. So yeah, I've purchased it before, and the last time I purchased it for $2.15. So where I'm going, guys, as I clicked on the part, and this is for every single part that you sell, I clicked on the profit monitor down here in the lower left, and this is where it tells me what was the average cost of this part. If I only bought one of them, the average cost is $2.15. Okay, but if I had bought more than one filter, it may be at different prices, MaxxTraxx will always average that cost in the background. It is this number that when you close out this RO and pay it with a Visa, check, whatever, it is moving in the background $2.15 from inventory to cost of goods sold parts. Okay? It does that for you automatically. Remember, let me back up. Every single part in sublet labor is received into MaxxTraxx as an inventoried item. Okay? So that on our financials, again, a little bit of accounting speak here, guys, but this is such an important concept. It's received as an asset every single time you buy a part. It is not considered an expense on your profit and loss statement until it's sold. Again, that's why we call it cost of goods sold parts. Okay? So if you were to buy 10 of these filters, MaxxTraxx doesn't know whether or not you're selling all 10 of them right away, so it receives all 10 of them into the parts room, like on the shelf, and maybe I'm just selling one of them. Okay? So in other accounting systems, which I know I've got a couple of people on the call that do their accounting by hand, do it by general ledger sheets, the old-time ledger sheets, and have been doing it well for decades. I have some folks on the call that were using QuickBooks that I know of. Okay, guys, so when we use those accounting products or a bookkeeper, in which most shops in America do because they don't have a parts management and inventory management system like MaxxTraxx, is they take every single part that they buy and bam, parts used or parts purchased. They make it all an expense. But the truth is, if you look at this as an example, guys, if your fiscal year is January 1 to December 31st, and let's say you get a delivery of 2 barrels of oil, 440 quarts of oil. In a lot of other accounting programs, because they're not tied all in one system like us, they put all 440 quarts of oil as parts purchased. That's an expense. Truth of the matter is, they actually put it to a cost of goods sold in QuickBooks in most cases. The truth of the matter is you didn't sell those 440 quarts of oil, did you? You might have sold 10 or 20 December 30th or December 31st. So again, the way that MaxxTraxx works, which is the most fundamental concept, is it receives the inventory and closing out the RO moves it to cost of goods sold. Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit every day throughout this webinar series, guys, because you'll see how this is tying into your workflow. So let's use this example. If I were to close out this RO with the red circle and slash, and look, we're saying it cost me $2.15. Okay, it would move $2.15 to my cost of goods sold. But us MaxxTraxx users who are full accounting users know we can't do that. So MaxxTraxx warns us. It says, hey, hold the bus here, sister. You don't have this part in stock. You need to order it. So I click in the order column. I can click single vendor quick order because this part always comes from Worldpac. See my WP? Okay, so single vendor quick order. It's creating a parts order form. It's actually going out to my speed dial and open up speed dial so I can submit my order online. Okay, let's let it do that real quick. It'll take a second since I didn't have speed dial open up this morning. And guys, if any of you guys use Worldpac, you actually don't open up Worldpac from outside of MaxxTraxx. You, oh, incorrect product code. You would actually do it from inside Max. You don't do it outside. We'll talk about that on Friday. So anyway, it asked me to submit my order. Let's pretend I hit send. I then would have, it's just saying I'm not really sending it through. It's somebody else's account anyways. So do you want to continue and cancel? Yeah. So what this is saying, guys, is I now have a parts order form for Worldpac for that part. There's my oil filter. So I would submit my order online, which again we'll do on Friday and Monday. We'll do a few examples. So then I wait. So I have a parts order form. Normally up here where it says open, guys, it would say submitted over here. And my send order button here on the left would be grayed out once I really sent through this order. But in this case, we're just pretending in my demo. So we just wait. I'm going to save this open PO. So when Worldpac finally gets around to delivering the part, they hand me the receipt, the invoice, the vendor invoice. They give me the part. So I run the part out to the guy, get him going, okay? Then I come back to order parts, and I click on that parts order form that I sent through electronically. Again, it would say submitted in the status column if I had submitted that online. So now I'm going to convert that parts order into a received vendor invoice. Remember, guys, AKA restock parts. So I'm really just going from the order parts icon on the toolbar over to my restock parts icon by clicking this green check mark. So I'm moving it from this list here to the list on restock parts. Let's do that. So this is a hitch, guys. Check it out. Enter the amount of the paper vendor invoice that you're going to duplicate in MaxxTraxx. So I'm looking at this piece of paper in my hot little hand. It says $285. Okay, and I click OK. And I'm like, ooh, $285, that's my target amount. That's how much the piece of paper in my hand says. But look, the last time I bought it, it cost me $201. Oh well, Worldpac always increases their prices over time. That happens. So we go up to the parts line, and I can double click or hit the edit. I'll just double click. And I'm going to change my selling price to $285 because that's what it says on the receipt. Okay? And notice, guys, this is reserved for a particular RO number. See that there? It's automatically tied. Remember I said we're tying our parts purchases and our sublet labor purchases to an actual RO to ensure that we're billing it out to the customer. Okay? That's why it does that automatically. So now I'm going to click OK, Save. I'm going to update inventory and post to accounts payable because I'm on account with Worldpac. Now, guys, this is what I'm talking about. If you're entering in a vendor invoice and you make a mistake, this is the one area that MaxxTraxx doesn't let us edit. You know, if I forgot to change my price, which would really make my bookkeeper unhappy, by the way, if I don't know, part number was different or whatever, or I put in the wrong due date or something. Okay, none of this can be changed once we hit this button that says Update Inventory and Post to AP. Let's go ahead and do that. Put in my fake invoice number and click OK. Okay, guys, that just did a whole bunch of things. Okay, did a whole bunch of things. What it did is it got rid of my red circle and slash. It put the correct cost in for that part. So now I've got one in inventory to sell. It put it under pay bills, under Worldpac. So now under, where's my Worldpac? Got a lot of junk in my, where are you? I know you're in here somewhere. Got a bunch of junk here in my demo. Okay, why are you on? Oh, it's probably because it's a credit. Let's come back to this. Well, let me go back into this ticket. No red circle and slash, see? But more importantly than that, guys, check this out. Under this profit monitor, my average cost is now $2.85. Do you guys see that? So this is super important. So you guys saw earlier, that said what, $2.15, right? So the whole backbone of the accounting is that we're tracking our cost of goods sold parts accurately so we have a reliable profit and loss statement. So in addition to this, guys, so average cost is what gets moved from inventory to cost of goods sold. It also shows us here. Selling that part for $4.02 gives me a 29% profit margin here at the part level, just for this part. We also have a profit monitor here for the overall repair order. So by correctly tracking our parts cost for what they really are, you guys see I am accurately at the point of sale making sure I'm hitting my target. Now, do I always hit my target? No. Because, you know, oil changes, we don't make very much money on oil changes, truly. They're loss leaders. But this gives us visibility into every single job if I'm profitable, okay? So again, guys, I'm throwing a lot at you today, and I don't expect you to remember a lot of this stuff. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to lay a foundation of how the integrated accounting works, okay, and why it's so important that we receive parts into the system before we sell them. You guys saw right there. Because, number one, our cost was actually different. So I might want to, you know, go into this part and maybe sell it for a higher price. Let me throw on my matrix. And I have a matrix specifically for oil filters. Oh, that is my matrix. I would sell it for $401. So that's how much I would sell my part for. Okay? So any questions on that, guys? Okay, so let me show you here, because we're about to look at my most favorite part of the entire program, kits. You'll notice down here we have an oil change, a fuel filter, and tranny service. Now this transmission service has a transmission filter on it, but there's no part number. So this is really, really important too, guys. This has, this is a part placeholder. So for full accounting users, and if you're not a full accounting user, it's okay. But for full accounting users, we have to always sell a real part number. In fact, MaxxTraxx would yell at me and say, you can't cash out this customer with a placeholder. So we replace a placeholder that is in a kit. Now I slapped this on here, guys, just to get in the ballpark. I just collapsed this down. So a transmission service is $286.60. Okay, but I threw this on Carol Kane Acura just to get a ballpark estimate. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. This could be, hey Shauna, I just unmuted you, sister. This could be higher or lower, but this just got me in the ballpark. So I'm always going to replace this placeholder. I just right-click, guys. Right-click, replace this placeholder with a real part. Now I could get a part from my inventory list, or I could get a real part from one of my catalogs. Okay, I'm going to try one of my catalogs and see if they come up with something. Let's go to WorldPack just for fun since it's already open. Let's see, do I have WorldPack here? Yeah. So this is one of the methods. Remember I told you guys there are 4 methods to receiving parts into the system. This is actually method number 4, replacing a placeholder with a part either from my list or from a catalog. So let's jump out and watch this workflow. This takes me right out to WorldPack. It is, already knows my year, make, and model. And let's put transmission filter, see what comes up. Really? Nope. Let's see if I can find something under transmission. Why don't I have a filter in here? Hopefully it has a filter. You know, let's just for fun, just for this example, let's put an air filter on there instead, just for my example. There, let's just do that, air filter. And click price. Okay, so I'm looking for, let's use this K&N. Let's do that for fun. So I'm going to hit this little green check box, and instead of sending my order through here, which a lot of you guys, if you're doing online ordering, you know, you go to your vendor's website and you just submit orders online. We actually select the part and then bring it into MaxxTraxx. You guys see this little MaxxTraxx in the lower right corner? We hit this instead of hitting the checkout button, bring it into MaxxTraxx, add selected parts to our row. Oh, look at my placeholder price is only 45 bucks, but look at my system wants to sell it for 83. Let's just pretend, and just pretend this is a tranny filter, and say use inventory parts price. Okay, so what it's doing, guys, every time I go out to an online catalog, which is why I love online ordering. It's taking a part that I've never bought before, and it's creating a part record in the background for me automatically. Okay? So it knows part number, description, condition, that it's a new part automatically. If it was reman, it would create a core for me automatically. It's applying my matrix, my selling price matrix right here. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. So guys, it's setting my selling price for me even. Now, can I change that? Absolutely. But it's kind of cool. So what it just did is it created a part record in the background. It's giving my red circle and slash. It's saying, whoa, Sabrina, you don't have this part in stock. So again, I'm going to go through that workflow real fast for you guys. Again, we'll do this many, many times, but I'll click Save Only. It's warning me, hey, the following parts in your repair order are not in stock. And this also covers sublet. It should actually say the following parts and or sublets on your repair order are not in stock, need to be ordered. So I'm tagging. We know it's coming from WorldPack, single vendor quick order. Going out to WorldPack. Now, I normally, guys, I would hit checkout, and that product would be ordered, but I don't really want to. I'm using somebody's account, so I'm just going to hit the delete. I don't want that accidentally for that to show up at somebody's step. Okay? So then what would happen, this would say submitted. Again, where it says open up here, it would say submitted. This would be grayed out, but I'm just going to hit cancel. And again, just save it. So again, when WorldPack shows up, I'm going to click on order parts and convert that into a received vendor invoice, aka restock parts. So while we're waiting, let's pretend WorldPack hasn't delivered that yet. I can go back into Carol Kane's Acura, and I can see, you know, I got a red circle on this air filter. Did somebody get this coming? I can click on parts on order, and there it is. Here's my air filter. It's been ordered by WorldPack, but check it out, status on order. So yeah, I still have a red circle and slash, but order's been sent. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for it to be delivered. Okay? So let's say WorldPack shows up. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and click on order parts. Something I did for, I don't know, the first 2 weeks when I started using online ordering, I kept ordering and going through that whole process, guys. And then I would come over to restock parts and go, huh, it's not here. I swear I sent you that order. So what would I do? Start a fresh vendor invoice for WorldPack over and over and over again. I did that for about 2 weeks. And then I went over to here, finally clicked the right button, and I had 4 pages of all those online orders that I had sent through. Okay, no big deal, but guys, remember, when a part is delivered, you always want to look under order parts to see, hey, did somebody create an order form for that already? Or do I just start from scratch? And this, for example, Sherry, is what we do in MaxxTraxx 222. We start from scratch, restock parts, select our vendor, put our parts, put in the part number. If we had to create a record, create a record. So the whole idea is we are speeding this up by not having to create a part record. Remember, MaxxTraxx created one in the background on the fly for us. Here it is, that air filter. -1, see, on order, -1. Did that for us on the fly. So once they show up, click order parts, highlight that WorldPack ticket, convert it to a received vendor invoice, aka restock parts, put in our target amount. Now with online ordering, guys, we're usually always correct because the online order amount was sent electronically. So you usually don't have to edit your price. And click OK Save. And again, update inventory and post to account payable. I'll put in my stake invoice number and OK. And close. So let's go back into this ticket. And there it is. No red circle and slash. And guys, I probably would sell this, use a matrix. Let me do dealer. They probably wouldn't mark it up quite that much. Oh, let's dealer list. That is dealer list. default. That's better. Okay, so I'm going to charge $50 instead of $45. It's $50. So I'd still be pretty close to my estimate amount. So guys, that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. You guys have pretty much gone through the entire workflow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let's just pay this one out. Okay. I got initials. I'm making sure I have initials on everybody. Yep, I'm good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit pay. I'm not going to print it. There's nothing for you guys to see anyway. So I'll hit pay. Starting mileage. Oop, I didn't put a mileage in here. What I can do, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to click on this word here that for the Acura. Oh, I didn't even have a mileage in my odometer. Maybe it's just 5,000 miles. That'd be a terrible time to do a transit service, huh? Using an air filter. So under miscellaneous, guys, we're going to cover all of this on Monday. I can put my odometer reading in here. I could assign a service writer. I could do a discount. Maybe I got, I don't know, $20 or $20 discount. I could take off supply charges, all sorts of different things. We'll cover all this, guys, as we go through. So now I'm going to hit OK, save, pay, and paid with the Visa, and apply payment, and finish. And this is just saying, do you want to ask for a new appointment in a couple of months? I'm going to say no for now. Do I want to sign a marketing letter? Sure. I'm going to add a letter and postcard. I'm going to send her a thank you letter and send that out in 5 days. Okay. That's our workflow, guys. That is our workflow. We just went through pretty much everything you're going to be doing in MaxxTraxx. And then that's 1, writing ROs and taking payments. 2, receiving your parts and sell-it labor into inventory before you sell them. So right there, 50% and 35% of your data entry. The last piece of the puzzle, like I said, is the checkbook, which includes doing a daily sales report. Actually, I would say 3 out of 4 shops do this daily sales report, which again, guys, remember, just changing the date so we have something to look at. This is actually a reconciliation. This is all this is. It's a cash drawer reconciliation. Just to make sure you've tracked everything properly through the day, everybody got cashed out. You know, if you took a bunch of visas, you make sure you track all those visas to make sure they're all been recorded properly and the amounts were correct. This is how we're kind of doing kind of like a financial audit every day to make sure that, you know, in this reconciliation, to make sure that our numbers are correct. Okay? Now again, none of this posts anywhere to the general ledger, but this is important. If you're off on your cash drawer in this example, and we'll run through this lesson again, like I said, next Friday of next week, it gives you an opportunity to do a real live general ledger transaction in the cash drawer, in the money bag. And remember, these cash drawer transactions do hit the general ledger in real time. Okay? That's about it, guys. That's about it. So now it's your time. And most of the time, guys, from this point forward, lesson 4 through 10, this is your time. This is an interactive opportunity for us to talk about your workflow. You guys can ask questions. The whole idea in each lesson is for you to watch the videos for each lesson ahead of time and then come to the webinar and we talk about it. And you may say, like there's a big shop in LA I'm working with right now, and they're like, Sabrina, that doesn't work for us because we do a lot of race team support out of state, and we would need to bill out for all the labor that we do that and then track all of our expenses. Well, they had a totally different workflow. So what we've done is we've worked together to take whatever's particular to their business, and we've customized the workflow in MaxxTraxx to match their business. So guys, I could just turn you loose and say, you know, good luck with those videos. Hope it works out, okay? But the problem is every single shop is different. Every single shop is different. I've been in, I don't know, in the last 20 plus years, I've been in over 2,000 shops, and I've worked with the financials of about 700-800 shops pretty intimately with their financials. Nobody does it the same. Nobody. That's why we call it independent repair, because you guys do this all your own way. So please don't hesitate to jump in the webinars and let's talk about, you know, all the different possibilities. Okay, I've got this situation, Sabrina. How do I handle this situation? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of brainstorm different workflow. Okay. So not to put anybody on the spot, but look, how's this working for you? Sherry, are you feeling more comfortable about your go live data conversion April 1? What's your thought?
Yeah, I think it will be okay.
It's not so different from what we were doing before, huh?
Right, yeah.
You know, before we had to get rid of the little, you know, the little check marks that were in the left-hand column. Those little check marks are short sales.
Yeah.
You know, that. Sublet labor, again, is handled very differently in MaxxTraxx than it was handled in MotorTraxx, because we just made one of our labor services sublet, and then we had them disconnected, and then we just put in the cost of goods sublet whenever we paid the bill for sublet. But you're going to see, and we're going to talk about this extensively, I'm pretty sure I covered that on Friday's webinar, how sublets are tracked just like parts. We actually receive them into inventory, so we'll cover all that. The accounting. When you go live, when you start using MaxxTraxx either as a brand new user, starting out the gate with a full accounting, or we got a couple of folks on the call that have been using MaxxTraxx for a while, but they're just going to start using the full accounting. That's why they're back in this webinar series again. Guys, remember, we always start on the first day of a month. We either start you as a new user, like in Sherry's case. We're going to convert your data, of course, on the last day of the month or the morning of the first day of the next month. And everything going forward will be in MaxxTraxx. Or if you guys are using QuickBooks or using Allison, they're using ledger sheets. They're not using the integrated accounting in MaxxTraxx. What we're going to do, guys, is say, we're going to draw the line in the sand and say from this point forward, we're only going to use MaxxTraxx for writing our rows, getting rid of red circles, and putting all of our checkbook in there. And then what we do, and we could do this a week or two or a month later if you want to, what we'll do if you're mid-year, well, actually for anybody, we're going to take your trial balance from whatever system you were using beforehand, and we're going to put that trial balance in MaxxTraxx. And we've got a couple of methods to do that. We help you guys with that. I do have a training video called General Ledger Setup, but we definitely will help you as part of you guys, you know, your registration fees, go through and get that all set up for you. Okay, so the beauty of this is that we can do this after the fact. We can start getting to work right away and then put in our year-to-date numbers. You know, in your case, Sherry, if you don't mind me using you as an example, we're going to take your trial balance out of MotorTraxx, dated March 31st. You know, right after we're going to run that report right before we convert your data. And then we're going to use that trial balance from MotorTraxx as your starting balances in MaxxTraxx. So for any system that you guys were using before QuickBooks by hand, having your accountant give you a trial balance through a particular date, that's what we're going to use. Now, you need to have something to get started with. That's on your shoulders, okay? That's your responsibility. However, there are some shops out there that have not been really tracking all this stuff. You know, about 80% of America pretty much takes their sales tax returns. That's their income. So either they literally are manually totaling up their ROs, or they're just running a RO sales report, kind of similar to our daily sales report. That's their income numbers. They have nothing else. And then they take their checkbook. That's their expenses. I mean, that's how rudimentary most shops in America, and truly, most shops are actually 3-man and smaller, truly. So that's how they do their accounting. So if you guys have been doing it that way, no problem. No problem. We can evolve into this, and we help you with this every step of the way. Okay. One other thing, guys, I want to cover before we wrap up. I'm clicking on Help and going to go to Scott Systems webpage. It's actually opening up on my other screen. So let me minimize it over here and drag it over. Come on. Come over. Not that one. Yep, that one. Okay, guys. So under the Training tab, okay, this is where we first have the webinars. Okay, this is the schedule. This is where you guys went to register. And notice it's a different look. Our website's a little different look. But remember, these are the lessons. This is lesson 3. The whole idea, let me click on lesson 3, is we wanted you guys to watch these videos ahead of time before you attended the webinar. Well, the truth of the matter is, I just closed it. Whoops. The truth of the matter is most shops don't. Before today's webinar, they don't watch the videos ahead of time. That's cool. Let me go back to the training page. So go to lesson 4. It's the same videos, okay? But for each lesson, you're going to see we have videos to watch. We talk a little bit about what we're going to cover, and then we talk about the videos that you guys need to watch, and then join the webinar. So for each lesson, let's go to lesson 7, our daily sales. So before lesson 7, which is our daily sales report, kind of that end of day, managing the money bag, that cash drawer, and making your bank deposit, by the way, is part of your end of day closing, so we'll cover that. So again, the whole idea, watch a couple of videos first, and then join us for the webinar. Okay? Now, if you guys can't join us for the webinar, that is, if you can't do the videos before the webinar, please join us anyway. I would much rather you be here, but I do think you'll get more out of it if you watch the training videos first. And come to us with a list. You know, come to us with there's a whole list of, yeah, I watched that in the video, and no, I don't get it at all. Confusing, can you clarify? Or, you know, we don't do that in our shop. How's that going to work? We get packing slips. We don't get vendor invoices. So how do I handle that? Because I got to get rid of my red circles and slash, and I don't actually get my vendor, you know, my receive vendor invoice for a week. So we talk about that, guys, how it's going to work particularly for your shop, and that's where these videos will really help you guys come up with some questions ahead of time to say, hey, I need to work this out for my shop because your workflow is not going to, you know, it's not going to work for me. So like I said, every shop is different, and we're here to help you guys with that. So we pretty much know videos to watch ahead of time. Again, if you're a full accounting user, we always start at the first of the month. We'll help you guys through that whole process. But going back to that one thing I said about everything posting to MaxxTraxx in real time. Now, our program is built on something called a SQL database, a little computer speak real quick. And you guys know I'm certainly not a computer wizard. It's built on this SQL database. So every transaction we do, every time we write an RO and post it, or, you know, do this activity here, every time we order a part and post it to a receive vendor invoice, that is all hitting our general ledger in real time as a little packet of information. So every time you run a report in MaxxTraxx, it's not looking at an accumulated amount in a whole bunch of accounts on our general ledger. That's how MotorTraxx worked. That's how a lot of older programs work. Now, in MaxxTraxx, built on a SQL database, every single time you run a report, say the general ledger income statement, for example, when I click run report, it's saying, just show me all transactions between this date range. Okay? Let's just for fun run this for, you know, see what comes up. So it's just saying, show me all transactions within this date range. Okay, so here in my demo, lovely demo, here's my income, here's my cost of goods, my gross profit. So if I were to do something that was maybe backdated to February 24th, and I were to run this again, let's look at this income number, $4,300 bucks, okay? use this as a quick example, and I'll close with this, and I'll grab your question, Shauna. Grab one, let's see, one that doesn't have red circles and slash. That's good. So let's go ahead and let's just pay it. And I'm going to, yeah, it's through today. Or let's say it was even through yesterday, just for fun. And he paid check, whatever, check number, finish. No, and close. So if I were to go back to that report guide, now that was for yesterday, okay? Yesterday's activity. This could have been even 2 weeks ago if we did a reconciliation and we're like, oops, we left something out, which is something I can say from experience. I'm sure, Sherry, you can appreciate. We could never do in our other system. So now MaxxTraxx, again, is running that exact same general ledger income statement, you know, since the first of the year. Remember it said 4,300 before. So it just changed right now in real time. You guys see that? So I just wanted you guys to know for sure that that's how MaxxTraxx integrated accounting is in real time, and it's date driven. So if we ever make mistakes or need to edit something, it's date driven. We can make corrections, and everything leaves an audit trail. So you never have to worry about somebody monkeying around with your financials and you not having visibility into that. We'll talk about that in Lesson 7. So Shauna, did you have a quick question for me? Oh, I think you muted yourself. If you want to unmute yourself, Shauna. With your little control panel and the little orange arrow up there. Oh, I missed you. I'll catch you. I'll give you a call, Shauna, after the webinar to make sure I didn't have any questions to cover for you. Okay, guys, so I'm going to close with this unless we have a few more questions. Are we good? Okay, guys, so remember, next webinar is lesson number 4, writing ROs. We're going to go over the very fundamentals of writing ROs, give you an overall structure. You know, how do you create the RO, how do you add recommended services, how do you upsell, how do we do all that kind of stuff. And we're going to touch on sublet labor. And then on Monday, we're talking in lesson 5 is more writing ROs. We're going to talk about some of the more advanced features in the program just to round it out. And again, guys, please watch the videos and join us if you with questions, because all the future webinars are really for you guys to really flesh out the rest of using the program. So thanks for joining me today, guys. We'll talk to you next time.